I'm Morgan, 34, and my relationship with my sister Vanessa has always been complicated. Growing up, we were different as night and day, but nothing prepared me for the humiliation at that high-end Jade store last month. There I stood, admiring a beautiful pendant, when Vanessa loudly announced I was too cheap to be here. What she didn't know was that my husband Nathan was about to walk in, and he owned the entire building. If you've ever felt belittled by family, this story might resonate. Before I continue, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe to join our community of authentic storytellers. Vanessa and I grew up in a modest middle-class household in suburban Chicago. Our parents worked hard to provide us with comfortable lives, but they never spoiled us with luxuries. From a young age, our personalities contrasted sharply. I was always the practical one, finding joy in books, achieving good grades, and saving my allowance for things that truly mattered. Vanessa, on the other hand, became fixated on appearances, social status, and material possessions before she even reached her teens. I remember when Vanessa turned 16. Our parents had saved for years to buy her a car, a reliable, pre-owned Honda that was perfect for a new driver. When they revealed their surprise in the driveway, complete with a big red bow, Vanessa's face fell. Instead of gratitude, she burst into tears, wailing that it wasn't the BMW convertible her friend Brittany had received. I watched my parents' excited expressions crumble as Vanessa stormed inside, slamming her bedroom door. That night, I heard my mother crying in the kitchen. The contrast in our values became even more apparent during the 2008 recession. Our father temporarily lost his job, and money grew tight. While Vanessa complained about canceling her spa memberships and shopping trips, I quietly withdrew half of my college savings to help with the mortgage payments. My parents initially refused, but eventually accepted with tears of gratitude. I never told Vanessa about this. I knew she wouldn't understand the concept of family coming before personal desires. Looking back, I can see how our parents unintentionally reinforced Vanessa's materialism. Trying to avoid her emotional outbursts, they often gave in to her demands while expecting more resilience from me. Morgan understands, they would say. And I did understand the family's financial limitations, but Vanessa never learned to accept them. Our paths diverged further during college. I chose a state university with a strong program in my field, working part-time to minimize student loans. Vanessa insisted on an expensive private college, not for its academic reputation but for the connections she could make with wealthy students. Her goal was transparent: find a husband with money. My focus remained on education and building a meaningful career in educational psychology. During her senior year, Vanessa met Bradley, the son of a banking executive. Within 6 months of graduation, they were engaged. The wedding was extravagant, far beyond what our parents could comfortably afford, though they emptied their retirement accounts to contribute. Vanessa had achieved her goal: marriage into wealth. But from the first time I met Bradley, I sensed his arrogance and condescension toward our family's modest background. My own path to love was quite different. After establishing my career counseling underserved students, I attended a fundraiser for educational access. There, I bumped into Nathan, literally collided with him, spilling champagne on his suit. Mortified, I offered to pay for dry cleaning, which made him laugh. "I'm more concerned about your dress," he said, noticing the splash on my one formal outfit. His kindness and lack of pretension immediately drew me in. We talked for hours that night, connecting over shared values and perspectives on life. Nathan never mentioned his profession until I directly asked. Even then, he downplayed his success, describing himself as working in real estate development. Only months later did I learn the full extent of his accomplishments. Nathan had built his company from scratch after college, focusing on ethical urban development and community improvement projects. He transformed neglected neighborhoods into vibrant communities, always ensuring affordable housing remained alongside new developments. His success was substantial. He owned properties throughout the city. But he lived modestly and directed much of his wealth toward philanthropic causes. When we married 2 years later, we chose a small ceremony in a botanical garden with only close friends and family. Vanessa complained about the missed opportunity for a grand event, especially after learning about Nathan's financial success. She couldn't understand our preference for simplicity and meaning over extravagance. Our lifestyle choices continued to baffle her. We lived in a comfortable but modest home, drove reliable cars for years rather than upgrading annually, and invested in experiences and causes we believed in rather than status symbols. Nathan's substantial wealth remained largely private, known only to those who recognized his name in business circles or philanthropy. Family gatherings became increasingly tense as Vanessa's judgment of our choices grew more blatant. She would comment on my practical clothing. "Morgan, that sweater looks so durable. Have you thought about updating your wardrobe now that you can afford it?" Or she would ask pointed questions about why we still drove a 5-year-old Volvo when Nathan could surely afford a fleet of luxury cars. Each gathering became a minefield of subtle competitions and passive-aggressive comments. For years, I maintained peace by letting her comments slide, changing the subject, or simply smiling through the discomfort. I did this for my parents' sake, knowing how much they cherished our family time together. But with each gathering, the divide between our values and perspectives on life grew wider. Last month, we all gathered for Sunday dinner at our parents' house, a monthly tradition since childhood. As usual, Vanessa arrived with shopping bags from luxury boutiques, which she strategically placed in the living room where everyone would notice them. "I just couldn't resist," she said, pulling out an Italian leather handbag. "The new collection just arrived, and they only brought in 3 of these to the entire country." She glanced at my well-worn tote. "It's an investment piece. Quality items actually save money in the long run, Morgan." Throughout dinner, Vanessa and Bradley dominated conversation with stories about their recent yacht trip with some of the most important people in Chicago finance. Bradley dropped names of celebrities and executives, pausing to explain who they were to us, as if we couldn't possibly know. My parents nodded politely, while Nathan engaged thoughtfully despite the underlying condescension. As we helped clear the dishes, Vanessa suddenly turned to me. "You know, Morgan, there's this amazing Jade store downtown that just got a new collection from China. We should go together this Saturday." Her tone was light, but held an unfamiliar note of insistence. "Jade?" I asked, surprised by the specific invitation. "Vanessa and I rarely spend time together without the buffer of family." "Yes, it's where all the celebrities shop when they're in town. Very exclusive." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "They don't even display prices. If you have to ask, you probably can't afford it." She laughed, touching my arm. "But I'd love to introduce you to the manager. He's a client of Bradley's firm." The implication was clear. She was doing me a favor, granting access to a world that would otherwise be closed to me despite my husband's success. Still, I found myself considering the invitation. Perhaps this was Vanessa's awkward way of trying to connect. "That sounds interesting," I said hesitantly. "Let me check my schedule." "Perfect. I'll text you the details." She seemed genuinely pleased, which made me wonder if I'd misinterpreted her intentions. Later that night, I discussed the invitation with Nathan as we got ready for bed. "I don't know," I said, brushing my hair. "Shopping with Vanessa hasn't exactly gone well in the past." Nathan paused thoughtfully. "Which Jade store is it?" "Dynasty Jade on Michigan Avenue. Apparently very exclusive." A small smile played at his lips. "I know it well. Quality pieces." He sat beside me. "Maybe give it a chance? Family relationships are complicated, but they're worth the effort." "You don't understand." The last time we went shopping together, I ended up crying in a fitting room after she loudly asked the sales associate if they had anything more flattering for problem areas. Nathan winced. "That's rough. But people can change. And you're stronger now. You don't need her approval."
He was right about that.
Years of working with students, building their self-esteem, had reinforced my own. "Maybe it could be different this time," I conceded. "And if it gets uncomfortable," Nathan added with that mysterious smile again, "you can always call me." The next morning, I texted Vanessa confirming our Jade shopping appointment for Saturday at 11 a.m. Her response came quickly. Great. Wear something nice. It's very upscale. That evening, my phone rang. It was Vanessa with more helpful advice. Just wanted to give you a heads up about Dynasty Jade, she began, without preamble. The prices might shock you, so prepare yourself. Some pieces go for tens of thousands. I'm not planning to buy anything, I clarified. Just looking. Well, looking is fine too. Her tone suggested otherwise. But dress appropriately, okay? No casual stuff. These places can be judgmental. After hanging up, I felt a familiar knot in my stomach. The tension that always preceded our interactions. Part of me wanted to cancel, but another part hoped this might be an opportunity to bridge the growing gap between us. Maybe, just maybe, we could recapture some of the closeness we'd shared as very young children before status and appearances became Vanessa's currency. That night, I struggled to sleep, memories swirling of childhood moments when Vanessa and I had been allies rather than opponents. There was the time we built elaborate snow forts together during the blizzard of '96, or when we stayed up all night comforting each other during a thunderstorm that knocked out power to our neighborhood. When had that connection dissolved? And was there any chance of recovering it? On Saturday morning, Nathan kissed me goodbye as I prepared to meet Vanessa. Remember, he said with a supportive squeeze of my hand, you're going because you want to, not because you need to prove anything. Thanks, I smiled, grateful for his steady presence. I'll try to keep an open mind. As I headed for the door, he called after me. Oh, and if you're still there around noon, give me a call. I might be in the area. There was that mysterious smile again, but before I could question it, my phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. On my way. Can't wait. I arrived at our meeting spot 10 minutes early, wearing a simple but elegant navy dress that I'd purchased for work conferences. Vanessa pulled up in her gleaming white Mercedes convertible, sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair. You drove yourself? She asked, eyeing my Volvo with barely concealed disdain. You should have let your driver bring you. The parking around here is a nightmare. We don't have a driver, Vanessa, I reminded her, though I knew she was well aware of this fact. She gave me an appraising look, her eyes traveling from my sensible heels to my minimal jewelry. Well, you look nice. Simple, but appropriate enough. She adjusted her diamond earrings. I told Bradley's assistant to call ahead, so they're expecting us. As we approached the store, Vanessa insisted on valeting the car, scoffing when I mentioned the nearby parking garage. Nobody who shops here parks themselves, she informed me, handing her keys to the attendant with practiced casualness. Dynasty Jade was located in a restored historical building with an ornate facade blending Western architecture with traditional Chinese elements. The entrance featured twin stone lions and a magnificent carved wooden door. A discreet security guard nodded respectfully as we approached. Inside, the space opened into a serene gallery with museum-quality lighting highlighting exquisite jade pieces displayed in custom glass cases. The walls were adorned with Chinese calligraphy and traditional artwork, while subtle bamboo flute music created an atmosphere of refined tranquility. Almost immediately, a polished sales associate approached, a stylish woman in her 40s with an elegant bob and impeccable posture. Ms. Reynolds, she greeted Vanessa with a practiced smile. Welcome back to Dynasty Jade. Mr. Crawford mentioned you'd be visiting today. Sophia. Lovely to see you again, Vanessa gushed, air-kissing both cheeks. This is my sister, Morgan. Sophia gave me a quick, assessing glance before returning her attention to Vanessa. What are we looking for today? The new collection from Beijing has arrived. Perfect. Show us everything exclusive, Vanessa said, already moving toward the central display cases. I followed more slowly, genuinely captivated by the craftsmanship of the pieces we passed. Unlike Vanessa, I had always been interested in the cultural significance and artistry of jade, having taken an Asian art history course in college. Approaching a case containing intricately carved animals, I asked Sophia, "Can you tell me about the different qualities of jade? I understand the color variations have different symbolic meanings." Before Sophia could answer, Vanessa interjected, "Morgan, These aren't the pieces I wanted to show you. The special collection is over here. She pointed toward a separate room with even more elaborate displays. I'll be there in a moment, I said, still admiring the animal carvings. Sophia seemed torn between staying with the priority customer and answering my question, but an elderly Chinese gentleman who had been arranging a display nearby approached. I would be happy to explain, he offered in accented English. I am Mr. Zhang, the master carver. While Vanessa disappeared into the exclusive collection room, I spent 15 fascinating minutes learning about jade from Mr. Zhang. He explained how the finest jade was valued for its translucency, color, and spiritual significance in Chinese culture. Unlike many precious stones valued primarily for rarity, jade was cherished for the skill required to carve it and its cultural symbolism of wisdom, protection, and purity. Each piece tells a story, Mr. Zhang explained, showing me a dragon figurine. The dragon represents good fortune and strength. See how the light passes through here? This indicates exceptional quality. I was genuinely absorbed in his explanation when Vanessa's voice cut across the gallery. Morgan, you simply must see these pieces. They're extraordinary. Thanking Mr. Zhang, I joined Vanessa in the private viewing room where Sophia had arranged several stunning pieces on a black velvet cloth. Vanessa was holding an elaborate jade bracelet to the light. This one is from the Imperial Collection, she announced, though I noticed Sophia's slight wince at the inaccurate description. Only 3 were made. Celebrities are on a waiting list. It's beautiful, I acknowledged, but I'm actually more interested in the cultural pieces Mr. Zhang was showing me. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Those are for tourists, Morgan. These are investment pieces. She lowered her voice theatrically. This bracelet is $45,000. Sophia smoothly interjected, perhaps your sister would enjoy seeing our traditional pendants? We have some exquisite pieces that showcase traditional carving techniques. Oh, Morgan doesn't need to worry about the traditional section, Vanessa said with a dismissive wave. I'm treating her today. Show us the statement pieces. Actually, I said firmly, I would like to see the pendants. Sophia led us to another display case, where dozens of jade pendants in varying shapes and colors were arranged. While Vanessa continued handling the most elaborate pieces, commenting loudly on their exclusivity, I found myself drawn to a modest but beautiful dragon pendant in a rich, deep green. Mr. Zhang appeared beside me. You have good eye, he said approvingly. This dragon is special. Not the most expensive, but excellent quality and carving. It represents the year of dragon in zodiac. It's my husband's birth year, I explained, feeling a connection to the piece. Meanwhile, Vanessa had moved on to examining a large jade figurine, interrupting my conversation by calling across the store, Morgan, come look at this phoenix. It would make a statement in your entryway. When I didn't immediately respond, she approached, glancing dismissively at the pendant I was admiring. Oh, you're looking at the small pieces? Those are nice starter items, I guess. She raised her voice slightly, ensuring other customers could hear. They have a budget section too, if that's more comfortable. I felt my cheeks warm, but maintained my composure. I'm interested in this pendant because of its craftsmanship and meaning, not its size. Vanessa laughed as if I'd said something adorably naive. Meaning doesn't impress guests, sweetie. Statement pieces do. She turned to another customer nearby and added, my sister is new to fine jade. She's still learning about quality. The other customer, an elegant woman in her 60s, merely raised an eyebrow before returning to her own browsing. I felt the familiar sting of Vanessa's public undermining but reminded myself of Nathan's words about not needing her approval. Still, as I continued examining the dragon pendant, I couldn't help noticing how Vanessa created an artificial distance between us in the store, physically moving away when other customers approached, speaking loudly about museum-quality pieces, while glancing in my direction, positioning herself as the sophisticated guide to her uninitiated sister. After nearly an hour of browsing, I had settled on the dragon pendant as my favorite piece. It wasn't ostentatious, but its craftsmanship was exceptional, and the cultural significance resonated with me. Mr. Zhang had explained that the particular shade of green, called imperial jade, was the most valued in traditional Chinese culture. May I ask the price? I inquired, holding the pendant carefully. Before Sophia could respond, Vanessa swooped in with theatrical timing. She plucked the pendant from my hands, held it up to the light, and let out an exaggerated gasp that drew attention from everyone in the store. "Oh my God, Morgan!" Her voice carried throughout the entire gallery. "You cannot be serious about buying this." The store fell silent. Every head turned in our direction. "This is easily several $1,000s," she continued, her voice projecting as if she were on stage. "I know Nathan tries his best with his little real estate job, but honestly, this store isn't for everyone." She placed a hand on my arm, speaking in a stage whisper that was clearly meant to be overheard. "You're too cheap to be here, sweetie. There's no shame in knowing your place." The humiliation was absolute. Customers stared. Sales associates froze awkwardly. I felt my face burning and tears threatening at the corners of my eyes. "The pendant has sentimental value," I said quietly, trying to maintain dignity. "It represents Nathan's birth year." "Sentimental value doesn't pay the bills," Vanessa laughed, addressing the room rather than me. "My sister has always been the practical one, bless her heart. While I married Bradley, who manages billions for his clients, she chose Nathan, who flips houses or whatever it is he does." I stood there, stunned by the cruelty of her public assessment. The store had grown uncomfortably quiet, with other customers exchanging glances or suddenly becoming intensely interested in display cases. Sophia looked pained but professional, clearly uncertain how to handle the situation. "I think I should go," I finally said, setting the pendant down carefully. "Don't be so sensitive," Vanessa exclaimed. "Look, I'll help you out." She turned to Sophia with grand magnanimity. "I'd like to buy this little pendant for my sister. Consider it charity. That's what sisters do, right? Help each other access things they couldn't otherwise afford." The condescension was unbearable. Something inside me finally snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. Years of tolerating Vanessa's behavior for the sake of family peace suddenly seemed like a disservice to both of us. "Vanessa," I said calmly, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "I don't need your charity. What I value can't be purchased, displayed, or used to impress others. I find joy in meaningful work, authentic relationships, and contributing to others' well-being. Those things don't come with price tags." For a moment, Vanessa seemed taken aback by my response. Then her expression hardened. "Well, isn't that a lovely little speech about values?" she said with a dismissive laugh. She turned to the store manager, who had appeared nearby. "My sister is very big on sentimentality over quality," she stage whispered. "Do you have a replica section for people like her? Something that looks impressive but costs less." The manager's response was cut short by the soft chime of the store's entrance door opening. I didn't turn immediately, still processing the sting of Vanessa's words, but I noticed a sudden shift in the atmosphere. The staff straightened their postures. Sophia's expression transformed from discomfort to professional delight. Vanessa, still mid-mockery, finally registered the change. She turned toward the door, her smile freezing on her face as all color drained from her cheeks. There, standing in the entrance with quiet confidence, was Nathan. Nathan looked impeccable in a tailored charcoal suit that he wore with effortless elegance. Nothing about his appearance was flashy. No designer logos or statement accessories, yet he commanded attention through sheer presence and quiet confidence. As he stepped further into the store, staff members greeted him by name, their genuine warmth a stark contrast to the polite professionalism they showed other customers. The store manager hurried forward, hand extended. "Mr. Mitchell, what a wonderful surprise. We weren't expecting you today." His deference was obvious as he enthusiastically shook Nathan's hand. Vanessa remained frozen, her mouth slightly open, eyes darting between Nathan and the staff's reactions. I could almost see her mind racing, recalibrating her understanding of the situation. "Just thought I'd stop by to see how the new lighting installation is working out," Nathan replied warmly. "The adjustments to the display cases look excellent, Simon." "Thank you, sir." The artisans are much happier with how their pieces are showcased now. That suggestion about adjusting the spectrum to better display the subtleties in the jade coloration was brilliant. Vanessa's expression shifted from shock to desperate social recovery. She forced a bright smile and stepped forward, hand extended. Nathan, what a coincidence running into you here. I was just showing Morgan some of the collection. Her voice had risen an octave and took on a syrupy quality I recognized from when she was trying to impress someone. Nathan smiled politely at Vanessa but moved directly to my side, placing a gentle kiss on my cheek. Hello, love. Found anything interesting? His genuine affection was apparent to everyone watching. Before I could answer, Simon, the manager, continued. Mr. Mitchell, we've implemented all the changes you approved for the building renovation. The climate control system is maintaining perfect humidity for the jade preservation, and the security upgrades have been completed. Vanessa's eyes widened at the words, you approved, and I saw the exact moment realization dawned on her. Mr. Mitchell is our landlord, Simon explained proudly to another staff member who had recently joined the team. He's also one of the foremost jade collectors in the Midwest. His donations to the Art Institute's Asian wing have been instrumental in preserving traditional jade craftsmanship. Each revelation seemed to physically impact Vanessa, whose complexion had gone from pale to ashen. She laughed nervously, too loudly. Of course. Nathan, you never mentioned you own this building. How modest of you. Nathan didn't directly acknowledge her comment. Instead, he spotted Mr. Zhang and greeted him in Mandarin, bowing slightly in respect. The older man's face lit up as they conversed briefly in his native language. Mr. Zhang and I go way back, Nathan explained to me, though everyone was listening. We met when I was studying abroad in Beijing during college. He taught me everything I know about jade appreciation. Nathan donated several historical pieces from the Qing dynasty to our National Museum, Mr. Zhang added proudly. Very important cultural artifacts that might otherwise have been lost. Simon nodded enthusiastically. This entire building is part of Mr. Mitchell's urban renewal project. He preserved the historical architecture while creating spaces for traditional artisans to showcase their work. Each casual revelation added another layer to the picture of Nathan's success and standing, a picture completely at odds with Vanessa's dismissive characterization of his little real estate job. Vanessa attempted to insert herself into the conversation. That's so fascinating. I've always said Nathan has an eye for quality. I was just telling Morgan how important it is to invest in significant pieces. No one acknowledged her transparent attempt to rewrite the last few minutes. Instead, Nathan turned his attention to the dragon pendant I had been examining. This is beautiful craftsmanship, he remarked, carefully holding the piece to the light. Imperial jade of this quality is increasingly rare. Mr. Zhang beamed. Your wife has excellent taste. She recognized its value immediately. Nathan smiled at me warmly. She always does see the true worth of things. The double meaning wasn't lost on anyone present. Then, to my surprise, Nathan reached into his inner suit pocket and removed a small box. Actually, I came by to pick up something special. He opened it to reveal a stunning jade bracelet with intricate dragon and phoenix designs, traditional symbols of matrimonial harmony. I commissioned this for our anniversary, he explained to me. Mr. Zhang has been working on it for months. The phoenix represents you, strength and renewal, while the dragon represents me. Together, they symbolize balance and partnership. The piece was breathtaking, clearly valuable but not ostentatious. It's worth lying in the exceptional craftsmanship and symbolic meaning rather than sheer opulence. It's beautiful, I whispered, genuinely moved by the thoughtfulness behind the gift. Vanessa stared at the bracelet, her expression a complex mixture of envy and dawning comprehension. She reached out toward it. May I see? It's absolutely exquisite. Before Nathan could respond, Simon interjected smoothly. Mr. Mitchell also donated the matching piece to the museum exhibition on traditional Chinese symbols in jade. It opens next month. I believe in preserving these traditional art forms, Nathan explained modestly. When we purchase pieces of cultural significance, we're really temporary custodians rather than owners. I could see Vanessa struggling to reconcile this. Nathan, respected expert, philanthropist, and property owner, with the dismissive caricature she had painted just minutes earlier. Nathan has the largest private collection of Song Dynasty Jade in the country, Simon added. Several museums have standing requests to display pieces from his collection. I had no idea, Vanessa murmured, her voice small. Nathan turned to me, his expression warm. I was thinking about the dragon pendant you were admiring. It would pair beautifully with the bracelet. The craftsmanship is exceptional, and I know you appreciate the cultural significance. Before I could respond, Vanessa jumped in with forced enthusiasm. I was just telling Morgan the same thing. Such a meaningful piece. I have an eye for these things too. Nathan's response was gentle but pointed. One of the things I most admire about Morgan is that she values items for their meaning and craftsmanship rather than their price tag or status value. He looked directly at me as he continued. Just yesterday, she spent her bonus on funding scholarships for 3 students rather than buying herself something. That generosity of spirit is what makes her truly wealthy in my eyes. The message was clear without being cruel, a lesson about true value delivered with dignity rather than humiliation. I squeezed his hand in silent gratitude for addressing the situation without directly embarrassing Vanessa further. The remainder of our time at Dynasty Jade was surreal. Vanessa, usually dominant in any social situation, had become uncharacteristically quiet. She hovered nearby as Nathan and I examined various pieces, interjecting occasional comments about craftsmanship or cultural significance that she had clearly just learned moments before. The carving technique is really what determines value, she observed sagely at one point, echoing Mr. Zhang's earlier explanation almost verbatim. It's not about size or even color, but the artistry. The irony of this complete reversal from her previous focus on size and impressiveness wasn't lost on anyone. Nathan purchased both the anniversary bracelet he had commissioned and the dragon pendant I had admired. As Simon processed the transaction, I noticed Vanessa watching intently, perhaps trying to glimpse the total, though Nathan's body language discreetly shielded the register display. Morgan, I've been meaning to ask about your pendant collection, Vanessa said suddenly, her voice overly bright. I'd love to see it sometime. I'm thinking of starting one myself. Something meaningful, with cultural significance. I'd be happy to share what I've learned, I replied neutrally, uncertain whether her interest was genuine or performative for Nathan's benefit. As we prepared to leave, Vanessa glanced at her watch with exaggerated surprise.
Oh.
I completely forgot about my hair appointment. I should run. She gave me a quick hug, our first physical contact in months. Let's have dinner soon. You and Nathan should come over next weekend. Before I could respond, she was already air-kissing my cheeks. I'm so sorry I have to dash, she added, loud enough for nearby staff to hear. This was so fun. Next time we'll look at those traditional pieces you like. She leaned closer, whispering, I'm sorry if I was a bit much earlier. You know how I get excited about shopping. With that inadequate apology hanging in the air, she made her exit, smiling brilliantly at everyone as if the humiliating scene had never occurred. The store door chimed softly behind her. When she was gone, Nathan turned to me. Are you okay? I exhaled slowly. That was intense. We thanked Simon and Mr. Zhang and made our way outside. Once we were seated in Nathan's car, I finally asked the question that had been on my mind. That wasn't actually a coincidence, was it? You showing up right then? Nathan's expression was slightly sheepish. Not entirely.
Simon called me after you arrived.
He mentioned Vanessa was being difficult. So, you came to rescue me?
I wasn't sure how I felt about that.
No, he said thoughtfully. I came because I was picking up your anniversary gift anyway. The timing was opportune. But I wouldn't have intervened if you hadn't needed support.
He reached for my hand.
Was it too much? I considered the question seriously. No, I finally decided. It wasn't about humiliating her. It was about standing up for myself, for us. I'm just not sure if it will change anything in the long run. The following days brought a flurry of activity from Vanessa. First came text messages, casual at first, then increasingly specific references to Jade and Chinese culture. She sent links to articles about Jade symbolism, followed by photos of pieces she was considering purchasing. "What do you think of this dragon figurine?" "Too ornate," one message read. Another asked, looking into supporting a jade preservation charity. "Any recommendations?" 3 days after our store encounter, she called to suggest lunch, just us sisters, at a new Chinese restaurant known for its authentic regional cuisine. "I'd love to learn more about your interest in Asian art," she explained, her voice carefully modulated to convey genuine interest. I agreed to lunch the following week, curious about whether this new attentiveness represented genuine change or simply image management. The next family dinner revealed the answer. Vanessa arrived without her usual array of shopping bags, instead carrying a modest jade figurine which she presented to our parents. "It represents family harmony," she explained, glancing at me as if seeking approval for her cultural knowledge. Throughout the evening, she repeatedly highlighted connections between her interests and mine. "Morgan and I both appreciate craftsmanship over brand names," she announced while complimenting our mother's handmade table runner. Later, she mentioned discussing educational charities with Bradley and asked for my professional opinion on organizations supporting underprivileged students. Most surprisingly, she announced plans to start a charitable foundation focused on arts education for disadvantaged youth. "I've been thinking about what really matters," she said, making deliberate eye contact with me. "Using our resources to help others seems so much more meaningful than just accumulating things." Our parents exchanged confused glances at this dramatic shift in Vanessa's expressed values. My father looked particularly skeptical, having witnessed many of her temporary enthusiasms over the years. After dinner, as Nathan and I helped my mother with dishes, she pulled me aside. "What happened between you and your sister?" she asked quietly. "She's acting different." I summarized the Jade store incident, trying to be fair despite the lingering sting of humiliation. My mother listened thoughtfully, her expression a mixture of sadness and recognition. "Vanessa has always struggled with insecurity," she observed. "Even as a little girl, she compared herself to others constantly. I think she measures her worth through external validation, possessions, status, appearances." "That doesn't excuse humiliating me publicly," I pointed out. "No, it doesn't," my mother agreed. "But understanding might help you decide how to move forward." Later, my father expressed more skepticism about Vanessa's transformation. "Seems like saving face to me," he said bluntly. "Question is, will it last when the embarrassment fades?" His question echoed my own internal conflict. Part of me felt vindicated that Vanessa had finally experienced consequences for her habitual belittling. Another part felt uncomfortable with her humiliation, regardless of how deserved it might have been. And beneath both reactions lay uncertainty about whether our relationship could ever truly heal. On the drive home, I confessed these mixed feelings to Nathan. "I'm glad I finally stood up for myself, but I'm not sure what happens next. Is she genuinely reflecting on her behavior, or just performing contrition because she discovered your actual status?" "People can change," Nathan said thoughtfully, "but usually not overnight and rarely without internal motivation. The question is whether you want to give her the opportunity to prove herself, knowing she might revert to old patterns." I realized I'd been enabling Vanessa's behavior for years by prioritizing family peace over authenticity. That approach had served neither of us well. Moving forward would require honest communication and clear boundaries, things our relationship had always lacked. "I think I need to have a real conversation with her," I decided. "Not about Jade or status or appearances, but about respect and authentic connection. If there's any chance of rebuilding our relationship, it has to start with truth." A month after the Jade store incident, I invited Vanessa to meet at a quiet cafe in a neighborhood halfway between our homes. I deliberately chose a casual setting with no pretensions, a place where conversation rather than appearances could take center stage. Vanessa arrived precisely on time, and I was struck by her subdued appearance. Gone were the designer logos and statement accessories that typically adorned her. Instead, she wore a simple sweater and jeans that wouldn't have looked out of place in my own closet. Her hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail rather than professionally styled. "Thanks for suggesting this place," she said after ordering a simple coffee. "It's charming. I would have never discovered it otherwise." Small talk carried us through the first few minutes. Neutral topics like the unusually warm weather and a recent exhibit at the Art Institute. But eventually, the conversation lulled, and I knew it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Vanessa," I began carefully, "I wanted to talk about what happened at Dynasty Jade and really about our relationship in general." She stiffened slightly but nodded. "I know. I behaved terribly. It wasn't just that day," I continued gently. "For years, I've felt judged and diminished by comments about my choices, my clothes, my priorities. Even when you're trying to help, there's often an implication that I'm somehow lacking or need improvement." Vanessa's initial response was defensive. "I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to help you access the better things in life." "But that's just it," I explained. "We define better differently. What you see as helping often feels like criticism because it assumes your values should be my values." She was quiet for a moment, stirring her coffee absently. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its usual polished edge. "I've been seeing a therapist since what happened. She suggested I might be projecting my insecurities onto you." This vulnerability from Vanessa was so unexpected that I wasn't sure how to respond. "The truth is," she continued, "I've always been jealous of you, Morgan." "Jealous? Of me?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "But you've always had the designer clothes, the luxury car, the mansion in the suburbs. And you've always had confidence in yourself," she countered. "You never needed external validation. Mom and Dad always praised your independence and resilience. Why can't you be more like Morgan?" was the soundtrack of my childhood. I'd never considered our upbringing from this perspective. I always thought they favored you. They gave in to your requests while expecting me to understand limitations. Because they knew you could handle disappointment. They didn't think I could. Her voice cracked slightly. "So, I built my life around proving my worth through things people could see and envy. But it's never enough. There's always someone with more, better, newer." For the first time, I saw beyond Vanessa's carefully constructed facade to the insecurity that drove her relentless pursuit of status. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it helped me understand it. "I didn't know you felt that way," I said honestly. "How could you? I never wanted anyone to see it, especially not you." She twisted her napkin nervously. When I saw how everyone at the Jade store respected Nathan, how they valued his knowledge rather than just his purchasing power, it made me realize how hollow my approach has been. "Is that why you've been sending me Jade articles and talking about starting a foundation?" She had the grace to look embarrassed. "Initially, yes. It was damage control. But then I started actually reading about Jade craftsmanship and cultural preservation, and I found it genuinely interesting. And the foundation idea, Bradley and I have all this money, but what are we really doing with it? Your work with students has always seemed so fulfilling." While I appreciated her candor, I also recognized that real change wouldn't happen overnight. "Vanessa, I want us to have a better relationship, but it needs to be built on mutual respect. I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not to make family gatherings comfortable." "I understand," she said quietly. "My therapist calls it establishing healthy boundaries." "Exactly. I'll always be your sister, and I'll always care about you, but I need you to accept my choices without judgment, even when they differ from yours. And I need to stop measuring success by price tags," she added. "I'm trying, Morgan. It's not easy undoing a lifetime of thinking, but I'm working on it." "That's all anyone can ask," I said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. Over the following months, I watched Vanessa make genuine, if imperfect, efforts to change. She reduced her social media posts showcasing luxury purchases. She asked thoughtful questions about my work rather than immediately changing the subject. Most tellingly, she began volunteering at a local arts education program, not just writing checks, but actually showing up to help children learn creative expression. There were still moments of reverting to old patterns, comments about sales at exclusive boutiques I might want to take advantage of, or questions about why Nathan and I hadn't upgraded our home. But these slips became less frequent, and more importantly, Vanessa became receptive to gentle corrections when they occurred. My own growth was equally important. I learned to state my boundaries clearly rather than silently enduring discomfort. I stopped seeking Vanessa's approval for my choices. And perhaps most difficult, I practiced genuine forgiveness, not just saying the words, but truly releasing the resentment I'd harbored for years. The Jade dragon pendant became a personal talisman of sorts. I wore it often, not as a status symbol, but as a reminder of my own worth and the importance of authenticity. Its cultural significance, representing strength and good fortune, took on personal meaning as a symbol of the turning point in my relationship with Vanessa. Nathan, as always, provided steady support without controlling the situation. Family relationships are never simple, he observed one evening as we discussed Vanessa's progress. But they're worth the investment when there's genuine effort on both sides. I'm grateful for how you handled everything, I told him. You could have humiliated her further at the store, but you chose to be gracious. That would have satisfied a momentary impulse at the cost of a long-term relationship, he replied simply. Besides, the most meaningful changes come from internal realization, not external pressure. As I reflect on everything that happened, I've come to understand that true worth isn't visible on the surface. The most valuable elements of life, integrity, purpose, authentic connection, can't be displayed in a glass case or worn as a status symbol. They're cultivated internally and expressed through how we treat others and contribute to the world around us. I've also developed greater compassion for those who seek validation through possessions and appearances. Behind that behavior often lies deep insecurity and a genuine belief that worth must be proven rather than inherent. Vanessa's journey towards self-acceptance is far from complete, but her willingness to begin it has opened the possibility of a more authentic relationship between us. Our sisterhood remains a work in progress. Some days feel like genuine breakthrough. Others reveal how deeply ingrained our patterns are. But we're both committed to the process, approaching it with more honesty and less pretense than ever before. Maybe that's the most valuable lesson from this experience. That authentic relationships, like the finest jade, reveal their true worth not through surface appearance, but through the depth and integrity that lies beneath. Have you ever had a relationship where appearances masked deeper insecurities? Or experienced a moment that completely shifted how someone saw you? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more authentic stories about family dynamics and personal growth. And if you know someone struggling with family relationships, consider sharing this video. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in these challenges can be the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your true worth is never determined by what others think of you.